Hello and welcome to the game portion of the podcast. It is just Emma and me here right before we actually start recording the play section, so we can talk a little bit about what she's got prepared for the game that's about to happen. So you used your tables to generate your scenario. Would you like to talk a little bit about what you rolled and what your plan is?
I would love to. And just to be clear, we are recording this before we play the game to then be shared after we play the game. So hopefully we'll see what changes versus what I'm able to hold on to.
Right.
So for the premise, and again, I rolled this before our characters were created. I want everyone to be aware of that. I rolled a 4, which gave me the premise that Vet Barbie's animals have gotten loose, which is fantastic because we have a cowgirl Barbie, we have a zookeeper Barbie, so immediately, we also have an astronaut Barbie, who I'm guessing is visiting the zoo that day. But immediately I start thinking like, okay, great, the vet was doing a checkup on the zookeeper's animals. Like, this is definitely going to be a connection there. The only things that I really have in my mind, so Vet Barbie's animals have gotten loose. For what caused this and why, I rolled a 1 and another 1. It was just 2 1s, which means that it's another Barbie that caused it, and it's because she's jealous in some way. So I'm going to stick with Vet Barbie. I think she sabotaged it.
Yeah.
She has let the animals get loose because she is jealous of maybe a zookeeper is like friendships, or she wants her position at the zoo. I haven't fully decided that yet.
Sure.
But yeah, zookeeper Barbie should be the villain, is what I'm thinking. A couple things that I have in mind. I think that the main challenge, the biggest one, is that it's a tiger that got loose. That's a pretty dangerous animal to be wandering around, and that it is on the way towards City Hall, which is a big deal in Barbie Land.
Mm-hmm.
And then along the way, I want there to be some mini challenges, which the first one that I thought of is at some point there's going to be, like, either they're crossing a road or they're literally crossing a river, and a wolf and a goat have also gotten out, and there's a pile of
That's
grain.
great. That's awesome.
We're going to throw in a riddle there. And then just some other minor things, like there will be broken fences, there will be property damage.
Mm-hmm.
And I also want to throw in a director of animal care Barbie who is really upset about the whole situation. Yeah. Do you think there's anything I'm missing here in terms of what I could prep for? I'm trying to keep it loosey-goosey.
Yeah, it's good to keep it loose. But so you've got your major challenge, your minor challenges. I mean, generally a good rule of thumb for a short, short notice thing like this, because like we said, Emma has just created this, like,
a couple weeks ago, and this is the first time I'm playing.
Or like just created this scenario.
Oh, just created, yeah.
Yeah. This scenario just to like when you're actually playing this with a group of friends, like just sitting down, you're not taking like a quick break like we are, you're probably going to have even less time to really think about it much. So a good structure that you're, I think keeping in mind is like maybe 3 to 4 challenges for a one shot or something like that.
Yeah.
Like just have like a number of challenges, and then Emma can pretty much, the challenges she's created, you can just kind of put wherever you've got. I mean, you could even have, depending on how long they take, that you could have 2 and maybe it turns into 1. Yeah. So like having some in mind is good. And I think you've got plenty. Yeah. And maybe something will come naturally too.
My like gameplay style is very much like nothing is real until I've said it out loud. So yeah. I'm saying this now. I'm very curious after we play if it ends up being Vet Barbie or if it ends up being someone else.
Yeah, just going. Sometimes a player just goes like, "Oh my gosh, is it this?" And you're like, in your head, "It is now."
Yeah. So excited to see how it turns out. Hope the game goes well for everybody.
Yep. We will see you all for the discussion part. Hello and welcome to the third portion of our first RPG, our BarBG even, the game portion of Read Play Game, where we look at tabletop role-playing games from every single side of the table. My name is Lawyer Enlo, and I'm going to be our pro bono rules lawyer. Or I was.
Hi, I'm Emma Skaggs, and I was the game master for this Barbie game, and I also designed the one page.
Hi, I'm Manish, and I was your astronaut Barbie.
Hi, I'm Tori. I played the zookeeper Barbie, and I want to throw in the joke. Lawyer Enlo, did you pass the BarBG exam?
Hi, I'm Michael. I'm not going to make a joke, and I was Cowgirl Barbie.
Objection. Okay, so for people tuning into this one for the first time, episode 3, this is us discussing the game that we've just played, which was the Barbie RPG designed by Emma Skaggs. We had our first episode where we created the characters. Second episode, we played through a one-shot. And now this episode, we are going to talk through our feelings on it, maybe examine some of the stuff that we were planning beforehand. Feel free to listen to this, to whichever of these 3 interests you, and skip whichever you don't. We have just listened to the opening portion that Emma and I recorded before this, so I guess we can start on that.
Yeah.
If you have
any reactions from the players as to what I had planned versus what really happened?
I thought the roles were really serendipitous, and your way of quickly combining the different careers into, oh, it's this fair that's happening, and then it's City Hall and the funding, I thought really wove well together, because I remember at the start I was like, polar bears, City Hall, how could it possibly be connected? And then it was.
Random.
I was so thrown off by the City Hall comment. Was that made up on the spot?
City Hall was in my plan earlier. For me, it was gonna be very Barbie magic of like the polar bear doesn't know that it's going towards City Hall, but they kind of point it in a direction and it goes where it would cause the most damage, essentially.
Right.
But I think it's very funny. I don't know if y'all heard in that intro, my notes is that there's a tiger loose, but the tiger became a polar bear when astronaut Barbie decided to be in the Arctic zone.
That's
I was like,
so
Nice.
funny.
yeah, I was like, great, they're dangerous. Let's switch this out. It's a polar bear now.
Oh, that's awesome.
I did feel bested by the freaking, and I definitely, when I was on the family computer at home, played that Pop Tropica like fox chicken corn riddle, and then I Googled it after Michael had sent it, and I forgot I could take them back the same way they came from. For some reason, I was like, it only goes one direction. So I definitely lost my zookeeper dog because I left them all on the side of the road.
So it's probably what? Get the chicken first, get the fox next, and then take the chicken back, get the grain, keep it with the fox, go back, get the chicken.
Yeah, you totally got it.
Blown
Oh
out
my
of the
God.
But also,
Yeah. First try.
Wow.
when
Astronaut brain.
Tori, you were like, do I have to do this riddle right now? And for me, it was more like, haha, how funny. It's like there's a riddle here and maybe they'll do it, but it also could be like, I throw the chicken and I can grab the fox and throw them all into something, so it was just like flavor for me that was funny.
That's always the question when you've got like some kind of riddle in a game, when it's like, what are the mechanics versus the like what's going to keep the flow of things? Because
Right.
regardless of how, if you got the easiest puzzle ever, it's going to take people 100 years sometimes. And
because what did you end up with? You used your dog.
It was astronaut Barbie who really came and was like, hello, we have more than just 2 hands. Like, why don't we just like make it a team challenge? I had a question about, you were talking some about the difficulty and like how many dice we were getting. And then I remember I had that moment as a player where it's like, okay, as zookeeper Barbie, I would want to stay here and get the animals in the pen.
Yeah.
But like, as the player, like, I want to go check out the polar bear. Like, you know what I mean? So I don't know how would, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that? Like, if we were to do it again, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I could have thrown you a bone there, and when you were worried about it, I could have been like, well, there's other people who work at the zoo that you can delegate this to. Because I think it does make sense that it would be important to you, but still, you know, as player, you're trying to follow like the story hook, like where it's gonna. If you had stayed though, I think that you would have just probably talked to vet tech Barbie more and figured out the side of the like the dark side of the vet tech situation. So it wouldn't be like the story would end. It just y'all wouldn't
I
be
guess
together.
for me, what it
Gotcha.
was I was processing is like honoring the stakes for that specific Barbie, but also knowing it's like it's a one shot and wanting to keep the momentum, but also like live within the world that it is.
Sort of like thinking a little too into the meta narrative of it.
I was
Sure.
having a hard time just playing with dolls.
That is something I have so many thoughts about. I think the one page aspect of the role playing game lends itself well to the sort of meta narrative we were talking about. Like, I remember that part where I was asking you about rules, and you said, I don't think players can benefit from sharing items, which immediately translates to you can borrow my telescope, but you just have to give it back, you know? It really did feel like a bunch of kids
Yeah.
playing with toys and making up a story as you go.
Yeah.
You know, I really like that, the idea of play making, which is so entrenched in like what Barbie is. It translates so well to a role playing game that's as lighthearted
Oh, for sure.
and as like rules light as this. So that aspect I really enjoyed.
Yeah, and I think you were talking about the idea of like Tori, you were talking about like how many like die we had. And I know you were originally saying like you were worried about it being like overpowered or whatever. But I think that's kind of I don't like, even then we failed several times, like even when having like 5 die, where the odds are like really, really good. But like I think that's like part of like because it's so lighthearted and wacky, I think that's kind of the fun of it.
Yeah.
I'm really interested, in talking about sort of where the balance ended up being in the actual system, because Emma and I talking before this, I feel like we really expected it to be so much more. I wrote lethal in my notes. Obviously, the conceit wasn't like you don't die, but the whole social outcast thing. Like I really did expect at least one of you to fail that many times, but I guess it was a little more forgiving with all the added dice, which I don't think is bad necessarily.
I think that is very dependent on the random encounter because this fit y'all's skills pretty well.
That's
Great.
true.
Oh yeah. I was surprised how well like I didn't even realize like I thought you had rolled the stuff after we rolled our stuff. The fact that like it matched so well with like our professions and everything, I think was really like wrangling the polar bear, wrangling the like dealing with all of the zoo stuff, already being in the zoo.
Yeah.
It's crazy how well it turned out. Like even with like I think the different professions and the different things you set up, I feel like the flexibility of it, because it's kids playing with toys and kids make wacky connections between stuff. I think that is really cool.
On the other hand, I felt it palpable at times, me trying to stretch out what the heck an astronaut can do, because full disclosure, I totally mixed up what an astronomer is and what an astronaut is at first. I just totally did not know the difference.
There's a lot of skills that astronauts do have. Astronauts have to be sort of
learning.
jacks of all trades in some ways. So I think that it can be applied.
I started to understand it slowly towards the end, but that being said, I think the conceit a lot of these one-page RPGs is that you try to stretch out your very minimal skills as thinly as possible to get the most juice out of any sort of tag like astronaut or camper or microphone.
This also for me, I don't think I've ever played a game with only 3 players. And for you
Really?
listeners, I'm probably the least experienced in the role-playing sphere. Some of the folks you're hearing have been doing this literally like a decade, I want to say. So for all those listeners out there who don't really know all the mechanics, me neither. But what was that like? Like, how could you see having more or less players impact this?
I think that I was not, since it was 3 players, I was a lot less worried about y'all splitting up. It feels easier to balance, especially in a game that goes so fast and that you're only trying to spend an hour or two on this. Like, if we had 5 people and everyone split up, then you have to bring the spotlight to each person and play out these different scenes, and it just takes up a lot more space than if they're all together working on something. Whereas, like, Cowgirl Barbie was with that polar bear, and that's what was happening, and it was just a regular, like, check-in with Cowgirl Barbie while y'all were split up. Of course, when you got all in one group, then I think the dynamics are a little bit more interesting, but it didn't feel as spread out as it might have with like 5, 6 players.
I've honestly found that 3 players is one of my favorite number of players to play with. I've got one group that meets regularly that does just have 3 players, and it feels like no matter how, like, even if you put like not much prep into the actual characters themselves, it feels more, if it goes quicker. First of all, I think that's why we were able to do this so quickly. And it also just feels a lot more, I don't want to say intimate, but sort of like it's much easier to keep all of the
character connections,
keep the character connections, and just keep a dynamic going. Like it feels much more like a natural conversation sometimes. I'm not saying that the larger numbers are bad. I think it's always fun to have more characters in the mix, but I think it's a fun thing to try out.
And I think there are certainly games that lend themselves more to or not even lend themselves to, but can handle bigger groups a little bit more. I think one page, I'm trying to think if I was to put a cap on it.
The maximum number?
Yeah, I feel like I would feel like this is a lot after there were 5 players. I feel like I could do 5 players, and then after that, it would be like maybe we do 2 groups.
I mean, at that point too, you've hit 5 out of the 8 on the table of skills.
Yeah, like it would be a lot for me. I had a question for y'all. Something that is interesting to me with games where DM is doing challenge level is I feel like as you play the game as a DM, you learn more about what challenge levels are actually reasonable, so maybe at the beginning I gave a challenge rating. I can't think of me doing this in this game because it went by very fast and we just played it, but where I'm like, oh shoot, that probably should have been lower or higher given how I rated things later. So I was wondering if things felt like even or fair.
I thought it was fair. Like, I remember Michael's first one was trying to lasso a polar bear, and that is not a thing that normal people do. That it made perfect sense, and I think at least given this current like adventure we went on, things were reasonable.
I remember when the challenge of Cowgirl Barbie, if you want to continue to hold on to the polar bear, you're gonna have to give me another 6 roll. In my head, I thought, oh, I wonder if she's gonna have to lose a die for like an endurance thing. Like, yes, you held on, but now it's been however many more minutes. So I just remember that was just a thought that I had.
Yeah, that's interesting.
That was a really interesting thing that I was thinking too, from like a rules perspective. Like, what is the balance between? Because like I wrote as a question, like, can the GM give you dice? Like, can the GM just say like, you get an extra die because of this circumstance that maybe has nothing to do with these things? And then I remembered the whole like premise of the game is that the GM has control over one thing, and it's the difficulty value, and you have control over the dice, and then it's a conversation over like when that comes in. And I think that there are games where you can just be a GM, and it's not like you're playing a game, you can just say have a die if you want to, but in the actual rules of the game, that's a very interesting thing in terms of balance, is like the thing that the players have control of, or the GM has control of.
I do wonder, and I don't think it felt bad. I think it felt, in terms of how many successes versus failures y'all were having, I think it felt in line with the vibe of the game. But I do wonder if you are trying to balance it a little bit more, if there should be this is impossible, this would need to be miraculous thing where you have to do 2 6s, where you have to get a critical success to do it. Because that's the only of it. It felt kind of odd having lassoing a polar bear be the same as jumping out of a moving vehicle to land on a polar bear. Like although it is all just like, this is really, really hard. I wonder if there does need to be like a third or a 4th layer.
That does make sense.
And,
Yeah.
I guess it's all kind of contextual too, because I mean, maybe like when you're standing still, it would be hard
To lasso
the polar bear, and maybe it's a whole different situation when you're moving or something, or when you're already on the polar bear, then something else might be hard.
Just when you mentioned the GM is in control of this versus the rest is a conversation. I really love that we call your role lawyer. Did y'all come up with that?
No, it's a term. It's like a
the rules lawyer.
rules law. It's usually used. I mean, often used in a negative
It's
context.
a little derogatory.
Is it real?
Yeah.
I like it because it's open for conversation and like, okay, well, when you did that, like you cite your previous examples or whatever.
I love it.
I had never heard it before. Sorry.
The rules lawyer is
Role
often
playing
viewed
community. My bad.
It's often viewed as a negative thing, because a lot of times it will be a player like speaking up and telling maybe another player that they can't do something because it's against the rules, or like just kind of telling someone, which
I think that's why here we have a pro bono rules lawyer, where I'm sure that if we were doing something just egregiously wrong with the rules, you would either say, this is not in the rule book, but if we want to do a rule of cool, we can, or it's more often like, here's what we can do. Like, here's what we...
It's from like the goal is to have it be like a just informative perspective, where like someone does understand it or like look at it, so that if people were listening and they like thought something might be true or go against something, maybe someone would be explaining something. I don't know. But it can be good and bad in a context of a game, because a lot of times, I mean, sometimes as a player, you want to remind another player of a thing they have that will be good for them. But it is still a game. So there's some restrictions that can apply. And the GM, it's hard for the GM to keep track of so many things at once sometimes. So
yeah, super helpful.
I did have one thing to say. I think this was just me not knowing Barbie culture. I have not watched the movie. I'm not very media literate. I didn't grow up playing with Barbies, but I think part of the fun of it was trying to learn the Barbie tone along the way. Like, how much of this is like friendship is magic? How much of this is like girls being mean to each other? How much of it is like these inside jokes trying to pick up on them? One inside joke I did not understand is gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss.
Yeah.
What do those words mean? I know what gaslight means.
Oh my gosh.
Wait, you're not even aware of this in like culture?
No.
What?
I wouldn't even say it's specifically tied to Barbie. It's not. It's just like a thing.
It's like,
from
so girl boss.
Cesspools of Twitter.
Yeah, I don't have a Twitter. Pretty much explains it.
That'll do.
I'm gonna gatekeep that information. Let's just keep it to ourselves.
So gaslight is gaslight. You know gaslight. Gatekeep is not allowing people into spaces, and then girl boss is your girl boss. And a lot of people have used that term in inappropriate ways, you know? So like, is this war criminal a girl boss?
People will just like, and they put the three of these terms together as like here's
as a motivational gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, you know?
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like a petty example of like gatekeeping would be like, where did you get your top? It's like, I'm not going to tell you. It's like, just
That's sort of what I was trying to understand, right? There was a clear villain, an antagonist. So when I saw that clear example of gaslighting, like it was like clear as day to me. I wanted to like fight back. And so like that part of the game was, I think when you put that aspect of game mechanics where it's like I can be jokey but also a little feral at the same time. When you put that at the core of the game, it makes for a game with a lot of drama like that, you know, because there is a clear through the game mechanics, there is something wrong and somebody is responsible. So either tackling that with like graceful, you know, kindness, or like just like a lot of passive aggression is pretty cool.
I was glad that you picked up on that, because I did not. When you were like, oh, City Hall, I was like, would have not made the connection as quickly as you did. So
I'll also say it wasn't gonna be it was just going to be the vet tech.
Yes, but you
The
brought in
animal. The
Oh, because
supervisor was going to be more a thorn in the side. It was going to be more like, y'all better get this figured out soon, more of like a pressure on it. And then I think asking about the funding, I was like, oh, yeah, that would be like, oh, let's go there. Let's follow this thread. So then it was a duo instead of a single villain, a villain and a minion, if you will.
Love it.
Using the Monster of the Week terms, I see.
Yeah, well, no.
Oh.
You're close.
Aren't they
Monster.
minions?
They are minions.
No,
but
that's
it's not a villain.
Despicable
Oh,
Me.
yeah. Oh, sorry. I just saw the Ninja Turtles movie, and they did name drop Gru and Megamind in the film, so it did get 5 stars from me.
One thing that I personally, from a game design standpoint, am not a huge fan of for this setup, like something that I would have preferred to flesh out and figure out more, is I love failing forward. I love it when you fail and that means that you gain something or something good happens to you as well, or not good necessarily, but like you learn something. And the failures are pretty just much like you fail here.
Yeah.
We talked a little bit before about maybe once you enter weird Barbie phase, you can like do one crazy break the game thing as weird Barbie and then you're gone. But yeah, I feel like there should be something for failing.
I think in that vein, there's like a lot of opportunity for the game to like really find a very specific niche. No pun intended.
Yeah.
The girl boss, the gaslight gatekeep aspect of the game, mixed with like the social ostracization of the failures, I think makes for like there's this undercurrent of the Barbie culture that's all about like I need to follow the rules. And I think part of the game that could be expanded upon is like if failure is like getting out of this Barbie society, maybe it also frees Barbie up to view it from the outside. I don't know what the heck that means in terms of game mechanics, but like I think what you just said makes perfect sense. Like something like outside of the narrative. Like if you're getting ostracized in the game, maybe the meta narrative takes over. Like you break the game because you're literally with your friends and you're like, that's not fair. I'm failing too much. Actually, I made a new rule.
Yeah, that's fun.
You get to make up a new skill or something.
Ooh, well, yeah. There's
you unlock mansplain, manipulate, and male life.
Wait for the Ken RPG to come out. I think the failing forward concept is very interesting, just from a purely like looking at the motivations of rolling. Because I know when I play a game like Monster of the Week or like Blades in the Dark. Blades in the Dark has a fail forward mechanic, right?
I think so. Yes.
I feel because when you fail, you get XP or something.
Something like that.
So there's just like a excitement from all levels. Like when I am in Monster of the Week and I am about to do a roll, I am like not nervous. Like I want a thing to go well, but I'm also really excited to level up. What I feel I would have felt perhaps playing this game, I could have been wrong, was I would have felt a little like scared for any role, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think it can match the vibe, but like a little bit of like, oh, I could fail and I would not only lose in this scenario, but also
it would be bad.
I'd be closer to being dead. So I think that it is definitely the tone. I think it's very funny that it is in the context of a Barbie thing. It's so like, I don't know, it feels deadly in a way that kind of is fun.
I had a similar thought in that was like when Cowgirl Barbie jumped on the bear. It's like, is mauling a possibility or are we plastic? Like, so
yeah, I guess that was sort of my line of thought too. The tone of this game can go anywhere just based off of the just very nature, I guess, of kids playing games with dolls. It truly can go anywhere. Is there a direction that you, Emma, had in mind in terms of the specific type of tone of a Barbie story?
I think that the primary tone is camp. It needs to be campy. It's supposed to be kind of funny, but it can be funny. And y'all were playing very nice characters. you know,
Yeah.
like you were good natured, kind people. And I think that's one way. And then it's like, haha, we're all doing these and like the world is against us. But I think it could also go the side of like oh my gosh, what's the YouTube series?
I
where
was
the
just going to bring
Barbies-
that up.
yes,
That's funny.
where the Barbies are like ripping each other's arms off and stuff.
Oh.
Like, and I just wanted to, I think that the tone is set by the random rolls.
Yeah.
It's just real quick. We did Vet Barbie's Animals Have Gotten Loose, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
But then you also have like, well, these are all kind of funny, but like somebody has sapped all of the color out of Barbie Land, so nothing's pink anymore. We've got a Ken has a crisis of confidence, and then when you look into the what caused this and why, I think that's where the tone is really set, because the problem's always going to be just like a campy problem, but it could be Midge has been possessed by an evil amulet. And then you've got magic. You could have that Ken has been listening to too much Joe Rogan. Like there's a lot of places for this to go that are all supposed to be funny, but could be much more sinister than what we had.
Right.
The scariest one to me is the infinite closet. The unending closet is terrifying to me.
That would be.
That
that's
was
like
pulled
like in
straight
Chainsaw
from
Man.
Barbie Dreamhouse.
You got all of those from actual
All of-
episodes, right?
All of the not all of the what caused this and why, but all of the what's happening in Barbie Land I pulled from Barbie and the Dream House. I don't think they called it an infinite closet. They called it a never-ending closet. So I think it technically has it, like it's probably like hyperbole, but I was like, no, it's
Wait,
infinite. The clothes go forever.
Did I miss this completely? What is this infinite closet we're talking?
It's
It's on the list.
It's the first option.
Oh my,
A Barbie is lost in an infinite closet.
that
So you have to go and save her.
I do have a question with like, because Tori was talking about earlier with, you know, like getting mauled by the bear or whatever. I'm curious about like a combat, like if there was like actual combat, like how that would go.
Like if you're combating other Barbies.
Like because we don't really, there's not really a health system or like injury or whatever. So I don't know how. I guess there's the fail, like we fail, like
Yeah.
the failure is kind of the health system
And-
sort of, but
Yeah, how I thought of that was you're not taking physical damage most of the time because you are plastic. So even if
Yes,
you had
true.
been mauled by the bear, I think that could have happened. I think that it would have been like the bear tries to sink its teeth into you, but it's just a kid like playing with the bear.
Yeah.
So it like
Right.
attacks you multiple times and ow, it hurts, but you don't have any like it's not like in other games where you take a wound and now like
Right,
you've got
yes,
this
yes, yes.
gnash. It's instead it's just now you're weirder. Now you're a weirder Barbie.
Yeah, and mechanically with the actual roles,
Mhm.
Emma thought of it. We talked about this a little bit before we came back to play the game. If there was like PvP, like Barbie on Barbie, it would be whoever has
player.
the higher role. Yeah,
Okay.
sorry, between players because they're all Barbies. So it would be
That makes
like
sense.
it would be like you both roll a d6 and whoever has the higher one wins that altercation. And we talked about whether it should be also applied to NPCs, but then we thought if you put it in like a D&D sort of term, every single roll in this game is like a saving throw versus like there's not really attack rolls necessarily. I guess
Right.
you could kind of, but it's more of like it's more reactive. It's more like this is happening to you. Maybe you're gonna roll to avoid it or roll to
If it was definitely for combat, yeah. And
yeah.
a thing that could make it more lethal that we considered, but I was like, I have concerns about how it's hard to heal. So I didn't want to make it more lethal. However, looking at how the balance worked, I think that it could be tried of if there's player versus player combat, like if I were to roll a 3 and someone else is to roll a 5, then I'm taking 2. You know, like you take the
Whoa.
difference because that's how a lot of games work, and I think that can be kind of fun.
I mean, it is social too.
Yeah, but I think it could kill people too fast, and then that's not as fun.
Yeah.
Is there any more stuff we should talk about?
I don't even think I had feelings about it. I just had a moment of like, huh. And I wonder if anybody else was having that like, huh. When we were creating our characters, I got Zookeeper and my mind goes David Attenborough. And then like astronaut, you get Buzz Aldrin. You know what I mean? And like, I couldn't name a woman in either category. I can't. Personally. You know what I mean? Or like, it's not the first thing that comes to mind. And so I was like, huh. Like, I don't know. Did anyone
Wow.
else
Goodall.
clock that we've
I
Jane Goodall done easy? Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
Jane
my
Goodall.
girl.
I had to look up a list of astronauts.
What's the name of that
Oh, you didn't have Buzz Aldrin
May
like
Jemison.
off the dome?
May
Is that the
Jemison
one on
is
Star
that?
Trek?
Yes.
I'm not saying that.
Okay, I'm like-
talking about the one that there's a show or The Last of Us talked about one.
The first woman in space was not Mae Jemison, but Mae Jemison is my favorite.
Yeah, she was
woman
one
in
of those on
space.
Star Trek.
Yes,
right?
she was on Star Trek.
Well, shout out Jane Goodall and Mae Jemison.
Yeah, Mae Jemison was the first astronaut on Star Trek.
No way.
Yeah, was the
Arguably
first
a
like
cool-
real astronaut to be on the show Star Trek.
Sally Ride. That's what.
Sally Ride, yes.
Yep.
Go Sally
Shout out.
Ride.
What a good name, Sally Ride.
Especially for an astronaut. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I was saying.
Ride, Sally Ride. Y'all know that song?
None, Joey Road. Yeah, that I do. That one I can't help on. Anyway, so that was just interesting. Like, even in like a module that's like particularly like Barbie and, you know, AFAB women centered, the first names that come to my mind were men. It's pretty much the only
Yeah.
moment I was like, oh,
I mean, that's the goal of Barbie, right? Is so
yeah.
that girls can see themselves in these roles.
Mm-hmm. And then my only other random question is, what was your favorite Barbie growing up?
My favorite Barbie?
Yeah.
I had I didn't play with Barbies very often, but my mom had a big collection, so when we would go to my grandma's house, I would play with her Barbies, and she had like the old Barbies. And let me tell you right now, I saw Anish make a face earlier, so I don't think Anish knows who this is, but my mom had Midge.
The pregnant one.
What?
Yeah.
She's the pregnant Barbie.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy. The history of Barbie is just wild. And then gay Ken.
Oh yeah, Magic Earring Ken.
Yeah.
She also had Magic Earring Ken.
Anish, you should
Nice.
watch the movie.
Oh, okay.
Midge is Barbie's friend, and she's pregnant, and her belly pops off and there's a baby inside, and then she can hold the baby, and then she's not pregnant anymore, and then you can make her pregnant again.
And it works like that.
So I enjoyed playing with her.
yeah.
Like it just pops back on and off. But my mom had a lot of the old ones with like the gorgeous dresses and stuff. So
Beautiful
I just remember
gowns.
like, yeah, beautiful gowns.
Beautiful dresses.
But yeah, thank y'all for testing out this game with me.
Thank you for making it.
Thank you for running it. Yeah.
Writing it, making it, running
Beginning of season 2, it's like the new and improved, and it's a 50-page book or
I'm a
something.
Barbie.
Barbies.
Choose your class.
I'm a Barbie's game.
it. The Barble.
The Barble.
Oh, God.
It's so cool that we got to have the creator on on our podcast for the first episode. Wow.
What are the odds?
Okay, cool.
Should we do our outro?
We can shift into the role part.
Oh yes.
We can cut into it. Maybe we'll say like we can jump into a quick break and then we'll come back with what we'll be doing next week.
And that's when we put in our ads.
Yeah, which all right.
Sponsored by Foot Locker.
Whoa,
If
really?
we can get them.
Thanks for listening to us so far. And now you may be wondering, now that the episode is over, what will we be playing next time? We thought about it a lot, and we think that the way to approach this is to do what we always do, roll some dice. So we've gathered a list of games that we've played in the past, games we've read before, games we've heard on other podcasts. And now, with this list in hand, each game on the list has a number. We're going to roll a dice, see what we get. We're pretty excited for this portion. And if you are excited, just like us, leave a rating on our podcast. It helps us so much. And perhaps suggest some RPGs that you love, some RPGs that deserve attention that we can put into the spotlight. So without further ado, Emma, since you GM for us today, roll the dice.
Okay, we are going to be playing The Ground Itself by Everest Pipkin.
Yeah,
Tune in next time for The Ground Itself.
awesome.
Woohoo!
Super excited.
And thanks for listening. Bye, Barbie.
Bye,
Bye,
Barbie.
Barbie.
Bye, Barbie.
Bye, Barbies.